sekarang kita ada di The Engine di 750 Main Street. Jadi The Engine ini dia akselerator yang dibikin oleh MIT untuk produk-produk inovasi tough tech. Tough tech itu apa? Coba kita lihat ya. Wih, keren banget ya. Model-model Skandinavia gitu. Ini living roomnya. Terus, nah ini contoh-contoh startup yang ada di sini. Built by MIT. Oke, hari ini kita bakal ketemu sama Ben Downing. Dia Vice Presidentnya di Engine. Wah, ini nama-nama startup yang ada di sini. The home for tough tech. Jadi ini hanya untuk startup-startup yang tough tech ya, alias harus menyelesaikan permasalahan yang paling kritis di dunia ini. Hello.
Hey Marina, how are you?
Hi Ben.
Good to see you. Come on,
Good
we'll go
to
for a
see
little bit
you.
of a walk.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Vice President of Public Affairs here at the Engine.
Yeah.
And I get to work with all of the teams here to help them grow and scale, right? So it's our mission to try to help tough tech entrepreneurs and teams grow in this space. It's a 155,000 square feet of space, bio labs, chem labs, industrial maker spaces. We have 97 teams working in climate, health, advanced systems, all taking on the biggest challenges facing society.
How long have you been here?
So I've been here for, at this point, about 2 years, 2.5 years.
2 years, okay. And what is tough tech, by the way?
Tough tech, as we describe it at least, right, is that intersection of science, technology, engineering, and leadership, all taking on the biggest challenges facing society. And so, you know, it's that version of really sort of using the best and the brightest minds to work on the biggest and the toughest problems for the maximum public benefit.
Wow. Wow, look at that. Look at this. This is such a cool space.
It's a fun rocket ship of a building that we work in here with great teams, great founders, and a lot of fun partners to work with too.
Right, okay. So, what are the toughest problems in the world today?
I mean, you're trying to find a way to address climate change, right? So first, get clean electricity everywhere on the grid, clean power everywhere on the grid. Then you've got to transmit it, get it to people, and then ultimately use that power not only to turn on lights and to be able to enable our modern lives, but also to decarbonize industries that have been with us for hundreds, if not thousands of years, like cement and steel, right?
How many startups are working on climate tech at the moment?
So here in the building, about something between 35 and 40% of the teams are working in climate, one form or another.
Okay.
About 40% are working in health, and then the delta are working in advanced systems. So quantum computing, advanced materials, one form. But
So 30-40% would be how many companies?
So probably about somewhere between 25 and 30 companies.
25 and 30.
Yeah.
So like I think the selection is very, very strict, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, we are lucky to work with incredible teams, and we want to make this space available to as many of them as possible.
Okay.
But we also want to make sure they're teams who are committed to taking on these big challenges.
Okay. Sorry, so and you mentioned health tech, climate tech.
So in health, when you think about it, right, you're dealing with teams who are trying to find ways to develop solutions, develop responses to some of the biggest health challenges, whether it's personalized medicine right up through public health. So teams that are finding ways to deal with these really, you know, hard to address novel diseases, right up to the next vaccine, the next threat, or the next pandemic, the next threat that comes down the line.
I see. And the third one, it was the
Advanced systems. So you need the systems to support all of this work. You need the advanced computing, like quantum computing, to enable us to have the ability to take on those big challenges. You need the advanced materials that are going to build lighter weight systems to be able to enable less energy use and enable the climate transition.
Wow.
You need the advanced systems that are going to transmit all the power from one place to the next. So it's those are sort of that set of technologies that enable everything else.
And is the engine a spin-off from MIT? Is it an MIT?
The engine was created by President Raphael Reif at MIT about 7 years ago.
Okay.
Spun out of MIT with that mission of lowering the barriers for tough tech companies to grow and scale, and ultimately succeed. Yeah, we are here in service and in support of that mission. So to do everything we can every day to make it easier for these founders, for these teams to get their idea out of a lab, to ultimately get it to the point of investment, and really to get it to the point of impact, right? We don't want founders and teams to just have to think, what is the minimum viable product I can build? We want them to be able to think, what's the maximum public benefit? What's the maximum impact of the work that I'm doing? And that was sort of the genesis of this when President Reif asked the question, how could MIT be a part of solving these big problems? And we're really, we consider ourselves lucky and privileged to carry that forward.
I see. This is such a cool space. Can we like look at a little bit like what's there?
Yeah,
Is it a park?
Just a little bit of a patio where all the teams enjoy it on a nicer day than today.
Is this also the engine? This building?
No, next door that's Novartis, right? So
Novartis.
We're here in between Kendall and Central Square, in and among some of the most innovative companies in the world. And I think that also gives a lot of the teams here something to aspire to, something that they want to look at and say, I want to be able to go challenge that company. One of these days.
Cool.
Find a way to do it bigger and better as well.
Okay. One question, like, why is the engine needs to be outside of MIT? Why cannot not be inside MIT, like the innovation headquarters, for example?
It's interesting. If you think about the history of higher education efforts to promote innovation, many of those have been about how do we promote innovation on our campus. It's a credit to President Reif and the leadership of MIT that they said, we don't want to just create a venture fund for MIT firms. We don't just want to create an accelerator and an incubator for MIT firms. We want to create it for all of the teams taking on the biggest challenges facing society. And so in that sense, we are proud of our connection to MIT, but we also are lucky to have the independence to be able to say, we're going to partner with and work with teams as various as those who are coming out of MIT, those coming out of Arizona State, coming out of Wayne State, the University of Illinois, Oregon, right up to University of Massachusetts, and plenty others as well. So,
I see. So applicants can come like from all over the US.
There's no requirement that you have a connection to MIT. Again, we love MIT. We love our roots. We love the teams that we get to work with in any number of different ways. But we also love the fact that we get to work with brilliant founders, teams, and partners everywhere across the country, and increasingly internationally as well.
And but only inside the US, not Europe or Asia?
No, so many of our programs are wide open. So our Blueprint program doesn't just require that teams are coming out of US universities. Most of the teams we work with, probably about 90 to 95%, will be US based, but we're oftentimes working with students, founders, and teams who are here studying and then excited to go back and start something up in their home country. So the majority of our work is here. We have, as part of our mission, to promote regional economic development. We think that's critically important. But we also know for these teams to grow and scale, it can't just be about doing it here. It's got to be about doing it everywhere.
Cool. Wow, is that the kitchen?
Yeah, one of them. Yeah.
Kitchen is usually like where
coffee is the most popular resource in the place.
And it's usually like where important deals are being made, isn't it? In front of the coffee machine.
I don't know how many, but it's definitely where we learn a lot from the founders and the teams. And again, this building is about trying to create spaces for those teams, those founders to come together, to learn from one another, to build together as well.
That's so cool. And let's maybe like, can you show me around?
So we have, like I said, 5 floors of different lab spaces.
5 floors?
Yeah, we have bio labs, chem labs, manufacturing spaces as well.
Wow.
We also, we really wanted to create a space where teams could come together, could learn together, could be in the lab. We really want to be able to have these spaces where founders, where teams can be able to do everything they need within one facility. So they can be in the lab, and then they can say, let's huddle up based on what we just learned, step into a conference room. How is that going to impact us? How is it going to impact our work for the next few days? And so we create these spaces for the different types of teams that we have. Too, right? We have 97 teams, about 10 to 12 FTEs at each team on average. But there are teams that are as small as 1 and 2 and 3 individuals, teams as big as 50 and 60. And we want to create the flexibility for those different teams to be here. We think they all learn from one another better that way. One of the great things is we found that the founders of the more mature companies are really excited about engaging with those earlier teams to try to help them say, this is what I learned when I was at your stage. I wish I knew this. get you along the path a little bit quicker. And so you'll find we have big conference rooms for 25 and 30 people. And we have smaller, quick little booths for teams to hop in and huddle in and build out.
And coffee machine, of course, and these are the phone booths.
And so, we have a lot of different offerings, right? We have the infrastructure and the space. We have programs to try to support those teams. And then we also try to regularly convene our ecosystem, the partners who we work with, who we think are going to help these teams grow and scale quicker, right? So, just yesterday we had partners from EIT and Energy coming together.
EIT, what is
that?
that?
Yeah, that's the European Innovation Institute of Technology.
Okay.
And Energy, they're a partner arm, and so we were working with them on a transatlantic clean tech summit. Before that, we had the Boston Biotech Investor Day, and so we're always trying to think about who can we partner with, who can we bring into this space so these founders and teams can be surrounded by everyone that's going to help them do the work they're doing and make it just a little bit easier, because it is tough in every sense of the word, right? It's tough to commercialize, it's tough to do the science, it's tough to go out and build it. So you need, sort of a village, an ecosystem of partners around.
And when EIT and also the Boston Biotech came here, what kind of partnership that they want with the
oftentimes
company?
it's just about convening people, right? Like this is a great place to be able to bring people together.
Okay.
We do have 900 plus scientists, engineers, and technologists working on these big challenges. So more often than not, if we're bringing someone into this space, we know that there is a significant chunk of the building that's going to be interested in what they're working on. We also know that the teams that are here are also going to be interested in thinking about, is that a partner I could work with in the future, right? So, it's not that there's any one thing that happens in that one day, but it's part of building a relationship, engaging, and again, surrounding the teams with everything they need.
Apart from, having like these gatherings and conferences and etc., like when a startup becoming the engine company, what do they get? They get incubated?
So if you come into this facility, right, like depending on the type of infrastructure that you need to use, you'll have access to world-class bio and chem labs. You'll have access to different industrial manufacturing spaces, whether that's a straight factory floor, a 3D printing lab, laser cutting, you name it, right? We also have agreements with 21 other research labs and institutions, so that if we don't have the equipment that you need, we can get you access to that equipment regularly. You also have a full team surrounding you, from a labs team, a facilities team, and a programmatic team, who are always thinking about what are the different ways that we can help these teams. And so we'll work with some of the 97 teams in the building one-on-one, but we'll also then be thinking about how can we take what we've learned from multiples of those teams and turn that into a one-to-many offering, something that we know will offer regular value to the teams over time. And we really try to be, find some type of a sweet spot between flexible and focused. So knowing that there are some really core critical needs, right? Capital, network, and infrastructure that any team is going to need to ultimately grow and scale. But what that looks like is going to look a little bit different for an early stage biotech company as opposed to a more mature climate tech company that's growing in scale.
Okay, so that's the accelerator part.
Yeah.
But if I'm not mistaken, there is also the engine venture, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we're incredibly lucky. When the engine was first created, it was two organizations under one roof, right? Increasingly, we are two independent organizations who work regularly together. And so we're incredibly lucky to work with our friends and teammates on the Engine Ventures team.
And the Engine Venture is basically a venture capital?
Yeah, absolutely. They're
okay.
a venture firm that has a longer time horizon. One of the critical findings when President Reif looked at some of the challenges for these tough tech enterprises growing and scaling was their time horizons didn't match up with traditional venture. And so we're incredibly lucky to have in this building a venture firm that is, not just thinking about what's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years, but really they're thinking about 15, 20, and 30-year time horizons and making those investments that are going to enable a better, brighter future.
So it's really a patient capital.
Yeah, but
patient venture
patient.
capital.
It's not patient for the sake of being patient. It's being strategic in your time horizon and looking for that impact, right? It's not just a philanthropic gift, as important as philanthropy is what can be catalytic in the next 15 and 20 years. Right?
What's the smallest ticket size from the venture?
Yeah, so generally the earliest and on the investment side would be somewhere in that like 300 to 500,000 range. And that's trying to reflect the fact that tough tech is generally incredibly
expensive, right?
It's incredibly capital intensive, right?
Wow. So that's the seed stage, is 300 to 500.
Yeah, absolutely. So
wow.
That team will work with founders as early as pre-seed and seed stage to try to enable their growth, and they have a great track record of doing that. Whether that's in supporting teams like Commonwealth Fusion Systems and Foreign Energy or Soleno Bio.
That's probably like the most important company in the world right now, isn't it?
Yeah, there are a lot of incredible companies that the team at Engine Ventures has invested in. A lot of incredible companies here in this building. We're incredibly lucky to get to serve them and work with them every single day.
Yeah. So 300 to 500,000 is the smallest ticket size, and what will be like the Series A, Series B?
Yeah, it varies significantly. Obviously, like climate tech is probably a little bit more capital intensive than some of the other verticals, but. I think it's a credit to the team at Engine Ventures that they don't think in those really strict sort of buckets, and more often are thinking about what are the resources and the capital this team needs to make the impact that we think they have the potential to make. And I think that perspective is what sets them apart from anyone else.
Okay, so you mentioned Commonwealth Fusion before. So can you tell me like what they're actually doing? I think some of the audience probably was not aware.
45 minutes to an hour north of here, you have a team that is diligently out there building, the first pilot-size fusion reactor. Right? They're building a fusion power plant.
It's like the 2024 Los Alamos.
Yeah, Devon's, Massachusetts, and hopefully it is the first of many of its kind. And I've had the privilege to get to be there at CFS, and it is an inspiring sight to see, and a really remarkable team that has been put together with a group of leaders who are humble and practical about this audacious thing that they're taking on. And again, credit to the early stages of the engine for supporting CFS, for enabling that, and credit to Bob and the entire team that he's built for the ethos that they bring to this just incredible line of work. So someday when we click on a light switch, you're going to flick on that light switch and know that it was made possible by Commonwealth Fusion Systems, who knows, in any number of different parts of the world.
Is there a risk though that like such a thing is built like basically in the center of a city, right?
No. I mean, first in Devon, you're far away from major population centers, but it's a credit to the team and how they've thought about it. They've gone about it in an incredibly safe way. They've been regularly engaged with regulators across the board, and it is a team that is nothing if they are not thorough in the work that they're doing. So I'm nothing but optimistic when it comes to the future that CFS is trying to build.
That's so cool. Can you maybe tell us maybe another 1-2 companies that you are so very proud of as the member of the Engine?
So I just think I'm lucky to get to work with these teams in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, or not the best, your favorite. Let's say your favorite.
Like, I've got 2 kids. It's like asking me to choose between my 2 sons. But so I've spent a lot of time working with the team at Sublime Systems. Sublime is doing low carbon, no carbon cement. Another one of those teams that has that great sort of mix of humility and audacity in the work that they're doing. And so that's technology that was spun out of MIT, out of Yet Ming Chan's lab, led by Leah Ellis, and just a really a fun team to get to work with. I was able to work with them as they not only scaled in and around here in Greater Boston, but they selected a site in Western Massachusetts in Holyoke, a gateway community that's been through a lot, and they looked at it and said that's got everything we need to be able to build our first pilot facility. And we were able to work with them as they won $85 million from the federal government to go out and build that facility that's going to create 75 to 100 jobs in Holyoke. That's going to be around somewhere like $150 million investment. It's a
from the government.
Thing.
From the government is 85.
Combination of public and private, and that's a credit to the Biden-Harris administration that they didn't just look at it and say we're going to pay for the whole thing, right? They want private investors to have skin in the game. They want the Sublime team to show how they're going to make this successful over time. But like after air and water, cement is the next thing that we use the most in the world.
Yeah.
And for this team to be able to show the pathway to have that product not have the negative impact that it's had in the past in the environment, while still enabling us to go out and build the housing that we need to build, go out and build the society that we need to build. It's just reason to be optimistic.
That is so cool. What's the other favorite? Another one, please.
Again, it's so tough. I mean, so Others that are here in the building, I would say, I've gotten to work a bit with the team at Selino Bio, who just won.
Selino Bio.
So they're doing personalized regenerative medicine. This idea that we would be able to have all of the cells that you would need to be able to address any challenge that you have just on a cassette.
Like a stem cell?
Yeah, no, but like these are like personalized regenerative cells that you would be able to build out right on a disc that way. And it's an incredible combination of biology and artificial intelligence.
Oh, like in a petri dish, like for meat.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Being able to build that for an individual. So if you have macular degeneration, being able to swap in healthy cells in that regard, right? So it's just a really inspiring team.
Yeah.
Again,
absolutely.
I think you start to see a theme here of teams that mix that humility and audacity in the work that they do.
I'm vegetarian mostly because of the animals.
Yeah.
So this is probably like one of the big solutions, right?
Not so much them. There are other teams here working on that.
You
right?
mean the cultivated meat?
Yeah,
I see.
Exactly. Plenty of other teams working in that space as well. So.
Here.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So it's a really Selino team's really inspiring. But like I could do that and go through just about all the 97.
with a lot of enthusiasm. The RIP team, we were actually here in June, and there was already like a road work in front of the engine. I'm so surprised that it's not finished yet.
Yeah, folks in Cambridge have a lot of work to do. So and the city's been a lot of fun to work with. So they're putting our tax dollars to work just fine. We got nothing to complain about.
Okay. Well, what is this very cool screen on your back? Okay.
This is a subset of those teams. Ultimately, we're going to get all the teams up there on the screen. And we're really want people to know that this place was not created just for MIT to fund another new building, right? Like this was created to be able to get ideas that are there in the lab out into the world and have a big impact. And ultimately, the victory is not a screen filled with a lot of inspiring teams. The victory is the future that these teams are trying to build and trying to enable. And to get there, you can't just think, all right, we're going to do things the way we always have. Because what you're gonna get, if that's the approach you take, is a lot more apps and a lot more problems that don't get solved, right? Like we don't need technology that's going to distract us more. We need technology that's going to be focused on the big challenges that we face. And that's the inspiring thing. Every day you walk in here, you are walking in alongside technologists and founders and teams who have dedicated their life to solving a big problem in society. And the ripple effect of that work, many of them won't ever see. They won't bump into the families, to the communities, to the people who will be positively impacted by that work. But we want to remind folks there are people here working for them.
Right. So that the engine was built 7 years ago. Has there been like any commercial success already, or this is still like the death valley
it's a long
everyone?
time horizon for a lot of these technologies.
Yes.
So if this is a 3 or a 5 year fund, it wouldn't have supported these companies, or a 3 or 5 year project, it wouldn't have supported these companies.
Otherwise they can just go to other venture capital and accelerator.
Absolutely right. So there are teams who are getting very close to it, right? Like you mentioned, CFS is there building their first facility. Form is building their factory in Weirton, West Virginia. Sublime building out in Holyoke, teams across the board, Celestial AI and others that are really having commercial traction and success, and plenty of them throughout the building. Mantle, you name it, they are all out there building. So they are starting to have an impact, and I think you're going to start to see many of them start to have those more traditional measures of success as well.
Wow. Okay.
So this tries to highlight the teams and some of the different
change.
ways that they're working to address some of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals.
This is a carbon capture company,
Yeah, this is Mantle. Mantle actually just raised a Series A, so they raised $30 million to be able to put to work their technology. They're one of the teams over in our industrial space, a team that we've seen grow and scale.
That's amazing. One question, Ben, because so usually, like at RIP, we were being told that like in when it's still like the phase of accelerating, like research. Usually, the funding is coming from grants. So, for example, like the federal government research grants and etc. But it seems that here at the engine, it's already an investment. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't think there are bright lines where non-dilutive, so public resources come in and private resources then say, all right, we'll take over from there. Many of the teams have blended capital tables, capital stacks, right? The public sector in particular is very interested in seeing solved and knows that it cannot solve itself. And so, many of them have received early stage support for their research when they were on campus. Many of them have, continued to access that support through the National Science Foundation, National Institutes for Health, Department of Energy, and many other parts of.
But it probably doesn't go through the engine, right? I mean, there.
No, those are direct applications.
When is the point when the engine knows, oh, this is not a research anymore, this is something which is ready for commercialization?
Yeah, so that's a spectacular question. If someone says it's a good question, that means they don't have the perfect answer to it. It's going to depend a little bit on each team, each technology, and where they're at. So where we regularly work with teams is through something called our Blueprint program, and that is a proto-founder program. We're working with founders in the final couple of years of their PhD as they make the decision, what do I want to do with this research that I've done? Am I going to try to commercialize it? If so, what does that look like? Where do I go? And we are trying to work with those teams to make sure, not that they have the answers, but that they've determined the right questions that will put them in the best position to know, all right, if I'm going to do this, what's it going to look like and where am I going to go?
Okay, great. So I think that's all my questions for now.
Our bigger event in community space, and we have used this from everything from REAP to First Lady Jill Biden was here for an event announcing a women's health effort through ARPA-H. Yesterday was the Transatlantic Clean Tech Summit. We'll have any number of events here throughout the year. Make It a Mass event where we focus on regional economic development. We'll have a variety of events for our Tough Tech Week.
Everyone apply to use this space, or do you also select
Yeah, anyone can apply to use this space.
Yeah.
We try to be pretty selective about who's here. We want it to be someone who we're going to want to work with. That's why we love working with the team at REAP, right? There's such mission alignment there. Certainly when ARPA-H calls and says we've got the First Lady, we want to make an announcement. Like, yeah, that aligns with a lot of what we want to do, right?
ARPA-H.
Yeah, exactly, right? Okay. So it is. We try to be purposeful in how we do it. That's the most important part for us. Don't just do something to do something. Do something to have a purpose and an impact for the founders and the work we're doing.
I see. If, for example, we bring, I don't know, the ministries or the industry from Indonesia who want to partner with your startups here at the Engine, is it possible?
Yeah, we regularly have international teams who come through.
Cool. Okay.
There are a lot of folks who do that work well through their consulates and otherwise. So, we are here to serve as a conduit in a lot of ways, and we go from there.
Okay, great.
Great.
Thank you so
Awesome.
much, Ben.
Thanks so much, Marina.